Klepper's Corner. Today in the news, July 28th, 2025. It's July 28th, 2025, and welcome to Klepper's Corner, where the news comes at you faster than Elon Musk's next lawsuit. And it's harder than a tactical pause that somehow still ends in gunfire. Today we've got starvation denials, drone strikes, a president who changes deadlines like socks, European trade tantrums, New York's latest energy bet, and the BBC hiring a meta exec to lead them bravely into the AI apocalypse. It's like The West Wing, but rewritten by Reddit and narrated by ChatGPT. Let's get into it before another global crisis makes this intro outdated. Segment 1, Gaza starvation crisis, tactical pauses and strategic gaslighting. Let's talk Gaza, where humanitarian crisis has turned into humanitarian catastrophe. 14 Palestinians reportedly died of starvation just yesterday. That brings the death toll from hunger to 147, including 88 children. Also known as the number of times Netanyahu said there's no starvation in Gaza in a single press conference. Israel's tactical pause is supposed to allow for humanitarian aid between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m., which is adorable because apparently pause means take a break from bombing long enough to shoot at food lines instead. That's not satire, that's from actual reports. Israeli troops allegedly fired at 2 food distribution sites. At one, 12 people were killed, over 100 wounded. Maybe they misunderstood food truck and thought it was armored. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu insists there's no starvation and no campaign of starvation. But like any good magic trick, if you say it enough, maybe people stop seeing the skeletons. 2 Israeli military officials and even a U.S. internal review say there's no widespread theft of aid by Hamas. So that excuse just got flushed harder than RFK Jr.'s credibility at a science fair. Trump, meanwhile, while in Scotland, because that's where all urgent humanitarian commentary happens, looked at TV footage and said, "Those children look very hungry," which is about the most accurate sentence he's uttered all year. He then promised food centers for Gaza while still refusing to recognize Palestine. It's like saying, "I won't call you my girlfriend, but I'll drive you to the hospital." European countries, on the other hand, are done playing nice. France has recognized Palestine. The UK and Germany issued joint condemnations, and over 200 British MPs called for official recognition. That's right, Europeans are doing something, which is weird. Usually they're just very emotionally supportive. But let's not overlook the disturbing narrative war happening here. Starvation is becoming a rhetorical football. Humanitarian aid isn't just about food, it's about framing. The IDF says warning shots. UN agencies say genocide, and Trump says those kids look hungry. It's a game of political telephone where the message gets lost and the malnourished are the ones who hang up first. Segment 2, Russia, Ukraine, deadlines, drones, and diplomatic shrugs. To the east we go, where Ukraine just got the world's worst Amazon Prime delivery. Over 300 drones, 4 cruise missiles, and 3 ballistic missiles from Russia overnight. That's not a bombardment, it's a clearance sale on destruction. 8 people were injured, including a 4-year-old girl in Kyiv. Russia says they hit military depots. Ukraine says they hit lives. And Trump says the deadline is shrinking faster than RFK Jr.'s immune system at a Pfizer factory. He originally gave Putin 50 days to end the war. That's been slashed to 10 to 12, August 7th to 9th. Folks, mark your calendars. The apocalypse may be sponsored by a countdown clock. Trump also said he's not so interested in talking anymore, which is a bold strategy, ghosting Putin in the middle of a war. It's like breaking up with your arsonist boyfriend while the house is still on fire. Ukraine thanked him for the shortened timeline, saying Putin understands only strength, which is true, though he also responds well to oil revenue and judo videos. The Kremlin, in return, said no peace meetings with Zelensky until we're basically done negotiating peace. So, after the war, that's like saying I'll get you a life vest after the drowning stops. Diplomacy here is less a process and more of a performance. Trump's deadline may sound tough, but without enforcement, it's a Netflix free trial. Impressive, then irrelevant. Putin sees it as political theater, Zelensky sees it as hope, and America sees it as content for campaign ads. Segment 3, US-EU trade deal, transatlantic tantrums. Let's shift to economics. The U.S. and European Union just avoided a transatlantic trade war by signing a new deal. Trump called it tremendous, which is code for Europe bent over backwards, and we kept our boots on. The deal includes a 15% tariff on most EU goods entering the U.S., up from 1%. In return, Europe promises to invest $600 billion in the U.S. and buy more of our energy and military toys. France is not thrilled. Prime Minister Bayrou called it a dark day for Europe, which is just French for why do we always end up holding the economic baguette? But for Trump, it's a win. He got to play hardball with allies and came away with money, machines, and Macron's existential crisis. This is what Trump calls diplomacy. It's like being mugged, then thanked for your contribution to national growth. The real twist, Europe took the deal. Because apparently fighting a trade war during a heat wave and a humanitarian collapse is just too much multitasking. The takeaway here, tariffs work if you don't care who hates you. Trump leveraged economic pressure to get what he wanted, and in doing so, he's redefined the transatlantic alliance as less partnership and more negotiated hostage situation. Segment 4, health policy madness. RFK Jr. fires science, burns the pills back in the good old USA, where the health system is now being redesigned by RFK Jr. Yes, the vaccine-skeptical nephew with the podcast. He's reportedly firing all 16 members of the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force because they're too woke. Too woke? It's a task force that recommends when to get cancer screenings. Who knew mammograms were part of the liberal agenda? Meanwhile, the Trump administration has decided to destroy a $9.7 million stockpile of contraceptives because they're abortifacients, which is conservative speak for things that prevent us from getting more unplanned pregnancies to moralize over later. We're talking millions of doses of injectables, implants, IUDs, and pills. Poof, gone. Because nothing says respect for life like increasing the number of people forced into poverty due to unwanted pregnancies. And while they're at it, Medicaid's getting chopped like it owes someone money. The Congressional Budget Office says up to 10 million more Americans could become uninsured, and low-income seniors are getting hit too, thanks to new Medicare savings paperwork hurdles so confusing they were probably designed by Kafka. In summary, this administration's health policy is simple. Fire the experts, burn the birth control, and blame poor people for needing health care. It's not public health, it's ideological cosplay with real-world consequences. Segment 5, Philippines State of the Nation, monsoons, Marcos, and middle fingers to China. Over in the Philippines, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., yes, the son of that Marcos, delivered his State of the Nation address, while his country quite literally flooded beneath him. More than 30 people have died from storms and monsoons, 6 million are affected, and 120,000 are in shelters. Marcos Jr. did what any good leader does in a crisis, personally handed out food, and then blamed corruption. Honestly, respect. It's hard to campaign and confess at the same time. He promised a list of every flood control project under his watch and said he'd prosecute anyone guilty of stealing public funds, which is a pretty bold move for a guy with the last name Marcos. But he didn't stop at domestic problems. On the foreign front, Marcos Jr. called out Chinese aggression in the South China Sea and flexed his shiny new alliances with the U.S., Japan, Australia, and even France. When you've got a flooded nation and a looming dragon at your doorstep, nothing says back off like having Uncle Sam on speed dial. So, while Marcos tries to clean up at home, he's also throwing elbows abroad. It's a balancing act. Mop in one hand, saber rattling in the other. Segment 6, New York goes green. Batteries, billion-dollar bets, and fireproof dreams. Back in the States, New York's doing something radical, planning for the future like it actually exists. Governor Kathy Hochul just announced the first big step in New York's 6-gigawatt energy storage roadmap. That's gigawatts, people, not a typo, not a flux capacitor. We're talking about enough bulk energy storage to power the grid more efficiently, save money, keep the lights on, and most importantly, prevent your Tesla charger from screaming during a blackout. The state's throwing safety codes into the mix because, well, lithium-ion batteries do have a history of going full Michael Bay. But hey, they've got fire marshals on it now. This is green energy with fireproof fashion sense. Even better, at least 35% of benefits will go to disadvantaged communities. Finally, an energy plan that doesn't assume equity means giving everyone the same pamphlet. With NY Green Bank ready to finance projects and a cool incentive program modeled after renewable energy credits, this is the kind of clean energy rollout other states should probably copy before the earth turns into a giant convection oven. Segment 7, South Jersey Slaughterhouse, when beef meets Blood River. Sometimes the best investigative reporting comes from your nose. In South Jersey, a resident smelled something foul, looked into a local waterway, and found out a slaughterhouse was leaking blood into a tributary of Muddy Run. Yes, that's a real sentence. The EPA stepped in, discovered that Burlington Beef had been using a spray field without actual vegetation, meaning all the bloody waste just slid downhill into the water. It's less sustainable agriculture and more Texas chainsaw meets irrigation. Now, the facility is under orders to stop the runoff, build berms, and consider treating wastewater before putting it back underground. Radical, I know. The good news, they're cooperating. The bad news, this has been going on for at least a year. So let this be a lesson, America. Your water supply might be cleaner if more of us just looked outside once in a while. Segment 8, BBC embraces AI. The robots will see you now. Meanwhile, over the UK, the BBC just hired a former Meta exec to lead their AI innovation and growth team. And Janli Kapoor's job is to grow audiences, especially under 25, by making the BBC a more data-led organization. Translation, fewer humans, more algorithms. Who needs anchors when you've got generative AI trained on 50 years of Hugh Grant interviews? The BBC already launched an AI lab, made guidelines for AI content, and now they're hiring like it's the Matrix. Their CEO says Kapoor's role is critical to modernizing the network. Let's hope that doesn't mean every breaking news story now comes with deepfakes and mid-journey filters. But hey, we already have AI doing everything from writing horoscopes to diagnosing cancer. It was only a matter of time before it replaced the guy who explains Parliament. Just don't be surprised when BBC News at 10 is hosted by chatbot McAI and sponsored by whatever your phone overheard you thinking about earlier. So there you have it. July 28th, 2025, a day of starvation denials, war ultimatums, trade deal bragging, ideological healthcare purges, climate-proof batteries, and blood rivers, brought to you by your friendly neighborhood slaughterhouse. We've got a president who redefines diplomacy with every tweet, a public health system getting rewritten by science deniers, and Europe trying not to choke on its own concessions. Meanwhile, AI is being handed the keys to journalism because we apparently decided nuance is too expensive. If history is any guide, this isn't the end of the madness, it's just the morning briefing. So stay hydrated, stay skeptical, and for the love of everything, please read past the headline. Catch you next time.